In 1974, 17-year-old Carla Walker lived in Tarrant County, Texas. She was a cheerleader and on a varsity squad. Her boyfriend, Rodney McCoy, was the starting quarterback for his Texas high school team. One evening, the two of them were sitting in his car in the parking lot of the bowling alley. Suddenly, an unknown man holding a gun came up next to the car. The man opened the passenger door and pulled Carla out of the car. He then hit Rodney over the head several times with the gun until he passed out. The attacker then kidnapped Carla. When Rodney woke up, he quickly drove to her house and asked her parents to call the police. 3 days later, her body was found in a ditch. She had been assaulted and tortured before being strangled. DNA of the attacker was found on Carla's clothing, but not much was known about DNA back then, and it was just collected. Suspicion fell on her boyfriend Rodney, as investigators did not believe his story for some reason. Another person that investigators looked into was Glenn Samuel McCurley. He was a person of interest because he had recently purchased a firearm of the same caliber as a magazine found at a crime scene. Glenn told investigators that a firearm had been stolen and denied any involvement in the crime. Even though this was suspicious, investigators could not prove that he or Rodney was responsible. In 2019, the case was looked into again. Investigators decided to make use of DNA to help solve the crime. The DNA of the attacker was entered into GEDmatch. It is a company that makes use of genetic genealogy. It led investigators to brothers by the last name of McCurley. Investigators knew that Glenn McCurley was looked into in the initial investigation. In July of 2020, investigators collected trash from a bin in front of McCurley's home. They were able to determine the items matched the male DNA profile found on Carla's clothing. On September 10, 2020, investigators returned to his home and talked to him and his wife. He told the same story he told detectives back in 1974, that he did not take anyone's life and did not know Carla Walker. He agreed to provide a DNA sample. 6 days later, investigators were notified that his DNA matched the DNA found on Carla's clothing. Glenn was taken into custody without incident. He is currently being held in a Tarrant County jail with bond set at $100,000. Investigators said that they believed the crime was random and Carla and Glenn did not know each other. It appears that over the last 4 decades, Glenn led a relatively normal life. He got married and had 2 children. He is not a suspect in any other crimes. Rodney McCoy has been under a cloud of suspicion for his entire adult life. It has been a long wait for justice for him too. DNA works in both ways. It catches the responsible and exonerates the innocent. In this case, it did both.